In September 1944, above the skies of Borneo, Major Richard Ira Bong, a renowned American fighter pilot, maneuvered his P-38 Lightning into a shallow dive. The twin Allison engines of his aircraft roared with a combined 3,000 horsepower as he scanned the airspace below through the bulletproof windscreen. Unaware of Bong's presence, Japanese fighters were desperately climbing toward a formation of American B-24 Liberator bombers. What the Japanese pilots did not know was that the unassuming farm boy from Poplar, Wisconsin, who was now tracking them through his gun sight, had already destroyed dozens of enemy aircraft in aerial combat. By the end of the war, Bong would cement his legacy as one of the deadliest fighter pilots in American history. The tale of a Midwestern aviator who ascended to become the United States' most accomplished fighter pilot, a distinction that has endured for 8 decades. This is the story of how a mild-mannered young man from northern Wisconsin transformed into a precision instrument of aerial combat, driven by innate talent, unwavering training, and the exceptional capabilities of one of history's deadliest fighter aircraft. The journey to 40 confirmed kills did not stem from an inherent warrior spirit, but rather from more ordinary beginnings. Freshly graduated from Luke Field in Arizona with limited flight experience, Second Lieutenant Richard Bong was still mastering the P-38 Lightning when he made decisions that nearly derailed his career before it began. Reports indicate that Bong performed unauthorized low-altitude aerobatic displays over the San Francisco area, violating Army Air Force regulations. His commanding officer, General George Kenney, swiftly issued a stern reprimand. However, Kenney, one of the Pacific Theater's most perceptive commanders, recognized something remarkable in the young pilot: exceptional aircraft control, spatial awareness, and Bong's disciplinary issues and unauthorized aerobatics occurred in 1941 at Hamilton Field, California. Despite the initial setback, Kenney saw the pilot's exceptional skills, including spatial awareness and aircraft control. The general's perceptive assessment would prove crucial in shaping Bong's remarkable career to come. In the early stages of his training, Richard Bong's reflexes demonstrated remarkable speed, operating at an impressive 226 pace. Rather than permanently grounding him, Kenney opted to provide Bong with additional training and close observation. Kenney recognized that Bong possessed exceptional qualities that distinguished exceptional pilots from their peers. These included excellent depth perception, the innate ability to calculate deflection angles, and composure under pressure, skills worth nurturing and developing. By September 1942, Bong was assigned to the 9th Fighter Squadron, 49th Fighter Group, deploying to New Guinea as part of the 5th Air Force. His combat experience was limited, in contrast to the Japanese pilots who had been engaged in continuous fighting since 1937, honing their skills in the skies over China. The Philippines faced a daunting challenge in the early days of the Pacific War. December 1942 saw intense aerial battles above the skies of New Guinea, as the young pilot Richard Bong embarked on his first combat missions. Bong's P-38 Lightning fighters from the 9th Squadron engaged in a fierce clash with Japanese bombers escorted by nimble Zero fighters. Bong, flying in the wing position, observed the enemy formations emerge from the clouds. The Mitsubishi bombers were protected by the highly maneuverable A-6M fighters, a formidable adversary. Yet the P-38 Lightning proved to be a technological marvel, unlike anything the Japanese had encountered before. Its twin-boom design, twin engines, and tricycle landing gear gave it unparalleled agility and firepower, with 450 caliber machine guns and a devastating 20 mm cannon mounted in the nose. The odds may have seemed stacked against the Allies on paper, but the P-38's superior capabilities would soon turn the tide of the air battles across the Pacific. The P-38 Lightning was a formidable American fighter aircraft, boasting impressive top speeds exceeding 400 miles per hour and a service ceiling soaring above 40,000 feet. While it could outpace and outclimb most Japanese planes, the nimble Zero fighters proved more maneuverable at lower speeds. Japanese pilots, masters of close-quarters dogfighting, ruthlessly exploited this advantage, often proving deadly to American pilots who attempted to match the Zero's tight turning radius. Recognizing the P-38's limitations in close-quarters combat, Bong opted for a different approach. He leveraged the fighter's strengths, its blistering speed, high-altitude performance, and concentrated firepower from the nose-mounted guns. When Bong caught enemy aircraft within the convergence zone of his weapons, the results were often catastrophic, as evidenced by his combat reports. The pilot's combat reports were characteristically understated, detailing the altitude, engagement conditions, and outcomes with minimal embellishment. It became clear during his early missions that he understood how to effectively employ the P-38 Lightning. The strategy was simple: avoid turning engagements, refrain from dogfighting, and instead leverage the aircraft's speed, altitude, and firepower. Careful positioning and precise firing were essential. Over the next 3 years, he would refine this philosophy into a remarkably efficient system. The P-38 Lightning, designed by Lockheed's legendary engineer Clarence Kelly Johnson, was a revolutionary aircraft that required equally innovative tactics. Its twin Allison V1710 engines delivered performance that seemed extraordinary to pilots accustomed to single-engine fighters. However, the aircraft's unique design presented its own set of challenges. The Lockheed P-38 Lightning was a complex and challenging aircraft for even the most experienced pilots. Its quirks and handling characteristics proved treacherous for many inexperienced aviators, leading to numerous fatal accidents. The counter-rotating propellers eliminated torque, but created unusual flight dynamics that required careful mastery. Additionally, the temperamental turbo superchargers and the aircraft's susceptibility to compressibility issues during high-speed dives posed significant risks. Shock waves forming on the wings could cause severe control problems, resulting in the deaths of dozens of American pilots as they grappled with the P-38's limitations. However, Richard Bong, a gifted and determined pilot, was able to overcome these challenges. His tactical evolution was rapid, and by early 1943, he had amassed multiple confirmed victories, establishing a reputation as an exceptional marksman. Unlike many of his peers, Bong employed a different approach, firing short, precise bursts rather than long, ammunition-expending salvos. His gun camera footage revealed a consistent pattern, the result of patient stalking, careful positioning, and brief, well-aimed shots. In the summer of 1943, Captain Richard Bong, a skilled American fighter pilot, demonstrated his exceptional aerial combat prowess. Bong's squadron mate and fellow ace, Major Thomas Lynch, described his technique as patient and precise. Bong would carefully position himself, sometimes maneuvering extensively to gain an advantage, before closing in and unleashing controlled bursts of fire. His ammunition efficiency was notably superior to that of the average pilot. The key to Bong's success lay in his mastery of deflection shooting, the ability to calculate where a moving target would be when the bullets arrived, rather than where it was when fired. This was a skill that many pilots struggled with, but Bong possessed the instinctive ability to make these adjustments, moving his controls smoothly and effectively. On one particular occasion in July 1943, Bong's exceptional skills were on full display as he engaged in a fierce aerial battle high above the clouds. Lille, New Guinea. Bong's victory tally continued climbing. A formation of Japanese bombers, escorted by Zeros, attempted to attack Allied positions. American fighters climbed to intercept. The engagement demonstrated Bong's evolving tactical sophistication. Instead of diving immediately, he positioned his flight with an altitude advantage. He waited for gaps in defensive coverage, moments when bombers were exposed. Then he struck, diving from altitude at high speed. Bong's P-38 attacked before defenders could react effectively. He engaged bombers with concentrated firepower. The combined output of 4 machine guns and 1 cannon could rapidly destroy aircraft when accurately aimed. Bong's approach emphasized converting altitude advantage into devastating attacks. The American P-38 Lightning fighters demonstrated remarkable agility and speed in their aerial engagements with the Japanese forces. Executing high-speed attack runs, the P-38s would swiftly descend upon their targets, unleashing devastating firepower before rapidly climbing back to altitude for another pass. The Japanese fighters, though highly maneuverable at lower speeds, often struggled to intercept the faster-moving P-38s employing these tactics. As a result, American pilots frequently achieved multiple kills in a single mission, with remarkably low ammunition expenditure per kill compared to the average. The American formations utilizing these tactics consistently secured favorable outcomes with minimal losses. Japanese forces, analyzing combat reports from their pilots, recognized the patterns in the American fighter tactics. They observed the P-38s attacking from altitude, rapidly engaging and disengaging their targets, and precisely identifying specific aircraft by their markings, including the P-38 flown by the renowned ace, Richard Bong, which was marked with the name, Marge. In late 1943, the renowned American fighter pilot Richard Bong had already amassed an impressive tally of 21 confirmed aerial victories, cementing his status as one of the country's top aces. General George Kenney, recognizing Bong's exceptional skills, personally awarded him the Distinguished Service Cross and sent him back to the United States for a war bond tour. The American public enthusiastically embraced the young pilot, who had demonstrated remarkable success against the Japanese forces. However, Bong's desire to return to combat was unwavering, and by March 1944, he was back in New Guinea, flying an upgraded P-38J with enhanced engines, improved cockpit heating, and hydraulically boosted ailerons that enhanced its high-speed maneuverability. Meanwhile, the Japanese air forces continued to struggle with replacing the losses they had sustained over years of attrition. In the skies over New Guinea in April 1944, the contrast between American and Japanese pilots was stark. While the Japanese had rushed many pilots into the air with limited training, the American pilots, like the renowned Richard Bong, possessed extensive flight experience and thorough gunnery skills. This experience gap had become a significant factor in the air war. Bong, leading flights tasked with escorting American bomber formations, employed increasingly sophisticated tactics. He would position his squadrons advantageously, strive to maintain altitude superiority whenever possible, and time his attacks to exploit the vulnerabilities of the enemy. These tactical approaches often resulted in favorable kill ratios for the American forces. Bong himself continued to add to his impressive tally of aerial victories, all while leading effective defensive operations to protect the bomber formations under his charge. His technique emphasized. The skilled American fighter pilot, Richard Bong, employed a set of tactical principles that allowed him to maintain a decisive edge over his Japanese adversaries. Bong leveraged the altitude performance of his P-38 Lightning to gain an energy advantage, using speed to initiate and disengage from combat. He exploited the concentrated firepower of the P-38, avoiding protracted turning engagements that would have negated the American aircraft's advantages. Bong's nerve and precise timing were critical in executing head-on attacks, as the windows of opportunity were fleeting, and most pilots opted to break off early. However, Bong's unwavering commitment to sustaining his attack runs consistently gave him the upper hand. When Japanese fighters attempted to escape by diving, Bong would pursue relentlessly, as the P-38 was capable of maintaining high speeds in steep dives that many enemy aircraft could not safely match. Bong's ammunition efficiency was exceptional, with his confirmed kill-to-sortie ratio and ammunition usage patterns significantly outperforming the norm. By June 1944, Richard Bong's impressive aerial victory count had reached 28, surpassing the World War I record of 26 held by Eddie Rickenbacker and cementing his status as America's top-scoring ace. Initially, General George Kenney prohibited Bong from routine combat missions, deeming him too valuable to risk. Frustrated, Bong advocated for a return to operations, and Kenney eventually relented, though with restrictions. Bong was allowed to fly, but primarily as a flight leader on high-priority missions, with experienced pilots providing coverage. The general's intent was to protect his most successful ace. Despite these limitations, Bong's kill rate remained substantial, as the priority missions often pitted him against capable enemy pilots. In October 1944, above the skies of Balikpapan, Borneo, a large-scale Japanese counterattack was launched against American bombers striking oil refineries. Major Richard Bong, leading a squadron of P-38 Lightning fighters, climbed to intercept the enemy. Bong's tactical approach emphasized positioning his formation with the sun advantage and altitude superiority, timing his attacks when the Japanese fighters were focused on the bomber targets. The initial attacks were often highly effective, with multiple enemy aircraft rapidly destroyed. However, the Japanese forces began employing more coordinated responses. During one engagement, Bong's aircraft sustained combat damage, including engine hits. Most pilots would have disengaged immediately, but Bong feathered the damaged engine, activated fire suppression, and continued engaging on single engine power. The P-38, designed for exceptional maneuverability, allowed Bong to outmaneuver the enemy despite the crippled engine. In the waning moments of a fierce aerial engagement, Major Richard Bong's fighter aircraft sustained substantial damage, yet he persevered. Despite the degradation in performance, Bong continued the fight, scoring additional kills before returning to base on compromised systems. Ground crews assessed the extensive damage to his aircraft, which bore the scars of multiple hits. Remarkably, the plane was deemed combat ineffective, but following repairs, Bong successfully flew the repaired fighter. By the end of 1944, Bong had amassed an impressive tally of 40 confirmed aerial victories, cementing his status as America's top ace. However, under the orders of General Douglas MacArthur, General Kenny permanently grounded this invaluable symbol and training asset, deeming Bong too valuable to risk in further combat. Bong's final combat mission was flown in December. On August 17, 1944, a routine patrol mission unfolded without any enemy encounters. Upon his return, the United States celebrated Richard Bong as its highest-scoring fighter pilot, a recipient of the prestigious Medal of Honor, and a national icon. However, the numerical data alone fails to capture the full extent of his impact. Bong's legacy transcended the 40 aircraft he had destroyed. He safeguarded bomber crews, provided air support for ground troops, and pioneered tactical innovations that became standard practice for American fighter pilots across the Pacific theater. His gunnery techniques were immortalized in training manuals, and his tactical approaches, emphasizing altitude advantage, were widely adopted. Launching assaults from advantageous positions, 1557 capitalizing on the P-38's strengths while 1600 mitigating its weaknesses, became 1602 a fundamental tenet of fighter tactics. 1606 rookie pilots studied his gun camera 1608 recordings and combat logs. Japanese 1611 aviators who endured the conflict and were 1613 later interviewed described encountering 1616 highly proficient American pilots who utilized 1619 altitude, velocity, and concentrated 1622 firepower proficiently. 1624 they acknowledged facing adversaries whose 1626 precision and tactical discipline were 1629 immensely challenging to counter. Missive 1632 to his fiancée Marge reveal a 1635 thoughtful young man who comprehended the 1638 gravity of his role. 1640 in his correspondence, Bong conveyed that 1643 his focus was on executing his duties 1645 effectively, safeguarding bomber 1647 formations in. The P-38 Lightning stands out as one of the most remarkable fighter aircraft in history. Produced in staggering numbers exceeding 10,000 units during the war, this twin-engine marvel served with distinction across all theaters of operation. In the Pacific, pilots who mastered the Lightning's unique characteristics transformed it into a highly effective aerial weapon. The twin-engine configuration offered critical redundancy, enhancing the aircraft's survivability. Its tricycle landing gear provided superior ground handling capabilities. The nose-mounted armament eliminated the convergence problems often associated with wing-mounted guns. Potent turbochargers endowed the Lightning with exceptional high-altitude performance that outclassed many Japanese fighters. This concentrated firepower, combining 4.50 caliber machine guns with a 20 mm cannon, delivered devastating destructive power. 1744 effective ranges of the aircraft's armaments were critical. 1747 when precisely aimed, this formidable firepower could rapidly 1750 destroy enemy aircraft. Bong's exceptional 1753 marksmanship and deflection shooting 1755 skills enabled remarkably short 1758 engagement times. Technical analysis of 1801 gun camera footage by Army Air Force 1803 experts revealed Bong's hit percentage was 1806 extraordinarily high compared to average 1809 fighter pilots. While the exact percentages 1813 varied across different analyses, his accuracy 1816 was consistently noted as exceptional, 1819 far surpassing typical pilot performance. 1823 on August 6, 1945, 1826 at the Lockheed Air 1829 terminal in Burbank, California, Major Richard Bong, recently 1832 married to Marge, was assigned as a test 1835 pilot for Lockheed, conducting 1837 acceptance flights on the new P-80 Shooting 1840 Star jet. The P-80 Shooting Star, America's pioneering jet fighter, ushered in a new era of aviation. Powered by a potent jet engine producing 4,000 pounds of thrust, this cutting-edge aircraft could exceed speeds of 500 miles per hour, rendering piston-powered fighters obsolete. Renowned World War II ace Richard Bong was transitioning from his trusty P-38 Lightnings to master the entirely novel flight dynamics of this jet-powered marvel. Tragically, during a routine test flight, Bong's P-80 experienced a catastrophic fuel pump failure shortly after takeoff. The engine abruptly failed at low altitude, leaving insufficient time and height for Bong to attempt a restart or reach the runway. In the final desperate moments, Bong tried to eject, but the altitude was too low for a successful bailout. The renowned American aerial ace, Major Richard Ira Bong, tragically perished in a plane crash at the age of 24. Mere moments later, the historic Enola Gay B-29 bomber unleashed the world's first atomic weapon upon Hiroshima, Japan, overshadowing the news of Bong's demise. 8 decades on, Bong's unparalleled record of 40 confirmed aerial victories remains unmatched, a feat unlikely to be surpassed in the modern era of long-range, radar-guided warfare that has supplanted the close-quarter aerial duels of World War II. Despite facing disciplinary challenges earlier in his career, this young pilot's legacy endures as a testament to the bygone age of aerial combat. Here is the paraphrased text. Richard Bong's storied career was defined by his mastery of fundamental aerial combat skills, patience, precision, and effective deflection shooting. Rather than relying on aggression or recklessness, he favored calculated positioning and flawless execution. Each engagement reflected meticulous planning, and every kill resulted from proper positioning and accurate fire. At the Richard the Fur Bong Veterans Historical Center in Superior, Wisconsin, visitors can view Bong's Medal of Honor, his flight logs chronicling 200 combat missions, and exhibits honoring his service. A restored P-38 bearing Marge nose art represents his wartime aircraft. General George Kenney, who recognized Bong's potential and supported his development, later attested that Bong was one of the finest pilots he had ever encountered. The tranquil landscapes where the renowned aviator achieved his remarkable aerial triumphs now stand in stark contrast to the bygone era of aerial combat. The young man from Wisconsin, who would become America's most formidable fighter pilot, honed his skills with a focus on precision and technical mastery, rather than pure aggression. His approach, marked by unwavering discipline and the consistent application of sound tactical principles, allowed him to deliver devastatingly effective combat performance. While the wrecks of his vanquished foes have long since receded into the tropical earth, the legacy of this ace of aces endures. His 40 confirmed victories stand as a testament to the power of superior technique and unwavering execution in the realm of aerial warfare. The statistics tell the tale. Richard Ira Bong's exploits during the Pacific Campaign remain unmatched by any American aviator to this day, nearly 80 years later. Exceptional skill in aerial combat, honed through meticulous maneuvering and pinpoint marksmanship, cemented his status as the most accomplished fighter pilot in the nation's history. Bong's record of 200 combat sorties and a flawless air-to-air engagement record speaks for itself, a testament to his unparalleled precision and prowess in the skies.